This will be another video with poor video footage, hard getting any good angles under the dash, removing the cabin heater element from the old Volvo F86. The valve for it started leaking, where it directs the coolant in there. Removing it, it has a couple of cables adjusting flaps to direct the airflow. There is this spring clip on there that pushed on to hold the cable in place on an arm. Was a little tricky to get out. There are a couple of bolts at the top of the heating element, the entire assembly, a couple of wires holding the fan in place, and a couple of bolts at the bottom, and kind of a tight fit getting things out. Even if old machines might be a lot simpler and less electronics than newer machines, it's not easy access all the time in them either. The edge of the dash can be taken off for a little more access. Still, it's tight in there. From here you can start seeing the water valve. It's up in there. There's also a cable to that one that needs to come undone, and there are two bolts up here at the top that are not very easy to get to. With everything undone, it's possible to kind of slide it out from in its hole and bring it into the garage. And I think I've already removed the valve itself in here from this assembly, and I could start. It had some number stamped on it, so I could start finding or sourcing a new part. Had lost one of them washers that holds the cables in place on the arms that redirects the air, and rather than sourcing new washers that are a pain to work with, I drilled small holes and found another way to secure the cable in place on the arm. Turns out they used the same valve for the coolant on some of the old Volvo passenger cars. I did find a Swedish site selling them, but it seemed hard to order from them, and you couldn't get a price on shipping and so on, so I ended up ordering from Germany. They had some site for old Volvo parts also. And then it was just a matter of bolting it in place. I did replace some of the bolts and nuts here. I think they were imperial size, not metric. I'm not really sure. I'm not sure what that copper pipe at the back that's supposed to feed in next to the heater element. It has something clever with some bimetallic valve restricting it if things get too hot, is my guess. And I think there is some little bolt where you can do some adjustments on that, but I'm just gonna bolt it in place and see how it works. Reinstalling the way I took it apart, just unwinding that coil as far as needed, shoving it in the hole, and then a rubber piece to cover the opening. Here I made a big mistake. We ended up bolting it into place, and I had not secured the cable going to the valve, the coolant valve, and it turned out to be stupidly hard to get the little bracket in place and the little bolt that secures the cable to adjust the valve in place. Eventually managed, but I was very close to pulling it back down again. I had even secured some of the other cables already, so but once everything was in place, I redid the wiring, and we could start bleeding it. Did not do any video footage. We did start it up, and there is a bleed valve at the bottom of the heating element, so we opened that and let some air out, and until we got this steady stream of coolant, and it started blowing warm air, and also wanted to circulate the coolant because we had added some water earlier when we had a leak and so on, so the coolant mixture was a little weak, and we just added the concentrate for a while and bled some from the heating element here and had it circulate and had the engine up the operating temperature and measure the coolant level, and it should be good enough for the coolant concentration. It should be good enough for the winter storage or when not in use. So that's it for the truck right now. It will need some more maintenance. I have actually purchased the oil and will replace in the transmission and rear axle, I hope, before it sees any more use. But right now I have plenty to do with all the windfall and trees I found. I keep finding more and more. It's no disaster, but it's enough that I will be busy for a while.